Okay. All right. So I am so excited to chat with somebody that I absolutely adore. Ashley Beeman and I got to connect a few years ago, and it's been absolutely incredible watching your journey unfold and see everything that has been going on for you over the last few years. And with that, like, your growth is, and again, your growth lights me up. Like, I love seeing people really come into their own. And, the more your journey unfolds, the more I get to watch that. Like, I mean, you're a social media queen, you're a mentor, like, you're a mom, you're doing all the things. And it's super cool to watch that energy just come out and see you help others step into their own and know that it's okay to be exactly who they are. So I'll let you go for a second. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I absolutely love doing this, especially with you. It feels so special. So my name is Ashley Beeman. I call myself a confidence and social media coach, but I am a mom and a wife. I run a construction business with my husband. I'm a master NLP practitioner. I kind of do all of the things. But my main message really is to help women step into their confidence, really learn to break all these societal rules that we put on ourselves and get out there and go do the things that we really love to do. And I've been in the online space since 2011. I've done a little bit of network marketing, and then I stepped into my own coaching business, and I love social media. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love it. And I think it is a great way for women to create the freedom that they want in their lives. And so I really like to help women grow profitable brands.
And I love that. Like, what you've been able to do and transfer from your own life into your business, like I said, like I just mentioned, is very inspiring. Like, you have been able to take what you've learned from a standpoint of coming from MLM and, seeing how that helped to shape where you were to go, but you were able to utilize that in such an effective manner to help people pull that strength into themselves of leaving something behind and going, hey, I'm pivoting my life into this direction. And yet I'm using these things that I learned along the way, but in a way that you have put that all into a different package that fits. And so with that, I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey of going from, telling a little bit more about an MLM if somebody doesn't know. And then for those that do know, like, how has that pivot been for you and how has that shaped where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think I know that life is full of pivots. And I think when we can embrace those pivots a lot more, like, it becomes a lot easier and less uncomfortable. And so I've kind of learned from that we do have to embrace those pivots. And sometimes the biggest things can be on the other side of those pivots. So MLM is network marketing, direct sales. You think of Beachbody, Monet, all those different things. And I will say, first and foremost, like, I have nothing against network marketing. I think it is a great space for a lot of people. And I also think it's a gateway drug to entrepreneurship for other things. And some people really thrive in it. And some people, spend their time there and then leave. But my experience from network marketing, for the most part, I would say 95% of it was amazing. And it really gave me, when I first started in network marketing, after I had my first son, I didn't really want to go back to work, but I wanted something of my own. And so I started with Beachbody and grew from there. And I just fell in love with social media. I mean, people used to joke, Ashley's always on Facebook. If she could just make money on Facebook. Well, I figured out a way. And yeah, so I kind of just took everything that I learned from that and started with my own coaching journey. And, a pivot is always scary. And there are some things that don't feel good, but, if anything, I've learned just to like feel those feelings and move through them. It's hard, but it's definitely worth it for sure.
I love that. And, that your latest program that you have out there, which we'll talk about as we get through, but like, I can tell you, it speaks to so many different volumes of things that go through a person's mind. So being able to step into that and to, make money from like social media, because it is there. It's not going away anytime soon. So being able to utilize that in a way that like helps people grow their business and showing them. But what I really do love, like I said at the beginning, is you not only talk the talk, you walk the walk of what you're saying. And so people can see that and you can feel that, like that energy comes through, because it's helping to empower someone that says like, hey, I can do that. I can see that, because it's allowing the process to be easy. That's what I like show, like what shows to me as much as like anything from what you have is it allows the process to be easy, because you're helping other people empower themselves to be themselves. Like,
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said, isn't it funny how it's not easy to be ourselves? Like, isn't that crazy to think? But it's true, because we're kind of taught that growing up that we need to fit in this certain mold. And so it does feel a little bit awkward to step into being who you really are.
Well, and, and I think that that's something that, I'd love to hear you speak towards too, because I know that your journey through everything over the last few years and, prior, as far as like health wise goes, shows that like what it's like to show up as you and not the version of you that other people needed to see. Yes. So how has that been? Because like, I mean, looking at the pictures, like I said, I mean, you radiate. And so, where your health is now, it's very inspiring to me, because, me being on this, like, I did a challenge for myself for 6 months, like, how much can I change my life in the next 6 months, but in a way that is congruent to who I am and, what that means to me. And so like, I'm uncovering all of these layers. And, it was something that just popped up into my mind. I'm like, I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to keep myself accountable and write these things down every day. And I'm it's unfolding as I go. Like today, it was like 4 pillars that like hit me of like, okay, this is what I'm going to critique on. But like with you, seeing where you are now and like the pictures and stuff, like, it's great. So if you want to tell everybody a little bit.
If we need a lot of time. No, right. I will kind of condense it. So one of the reasons I did step away from network marketing is because I felt a lot of pressure to create these before and after pictures. And I found myself really, really deep in diet culture to the point where I was abusing stimulants. I was prescribed Adderall and I became addicted very, very quickly. And I was prescribed it. I know a lot of people will come at me and say that, and I take full responsibility for what I did during that time. So that was 6 years ago. I gave up all stimulants. Actually, this weekend will be 6 years. And after that, I kind of just thought, okay, I need to figure out a way to maintain this weight loss and maintain this image that I have portrayed online. And so I would do these crash diets and all of these things. And I was never doing it for myself. I was doing it for the outside validation. I was doing it because I thought it would make me more money. And I thought that it was the answer to everything. I really thought that weight loss was the answer to everything. And I got to a point where I just could not do it anymore. I remember it was Christmas and I was talking with my friend and I said, I have to stop chasing these before and after and this weight loss. I cannot do it anymore. And then I went on a different journey. So I kind of went from over here, like if you're thinking about a pendulum, as swinging all the way to the other side into anti-diet, body positivity. And I jumped into that space and I was really loud in that space, to be honest with you, because I felt like I was finally being heard. And I was in that space for about 2 years and I just allowed myself to be. And I really focused on not hating myself, learning how to love my body as it was, as it changed, all the different things. And then about a year and a half into that journey, I realized that I almost felt the same in that pendulum swing on the other side as I did being deep in diet culture. And so then I said, you know what? You're teaching women to break these rules, break the freaking rules. And what do you want to do? And what does that look like for you? And so it was August of 2020. I remember I ordered a scale and I was so like, oh, I'm not supposed to be ordering a scale, but I wanted to. So I felt the fear. I did it anyways. And I kind of just went on this really slow health journey. And I just hit my 40-pound weight loss from 2 years ago. But so much more has changed from that. Like I am not beating myself up over the scale or restricting so hard that like I'm binging, anything like that. It's really, it's an all-encompassing journey, to be honest with you. It was so much different than any other time that I do it. So I like to call it like the magical gray area. I really love what you said, like you're doing it for you, because that is the most important part, is like your intention behind what you're doing and being able to live the life you really want to live and feel good at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's where, for me, like now I'm at this point where, there are things going on with my health that it's very important for me to, get back into this place that I pay attention to what's going on with my body. Like it's been telling me things for a while. And, it's like, okay, like I hear you, but I'm not listening. So now it's taking an account to what I hear my body saying and saying, okay, here, it's okay, to have these things, but it's not okay to like, indulge forever in those. And it's like, doing what feels good. And when you're doing what feels good, it shows. It shows all over the place, like, and that's that ripple effect that, it shows in the way we look, it shows in our energy, it shows in our business, it shows in like our family life. And then ultimately, when we look at like where our health is, it shows there. And, it's just, it's incredibly inspiring to watch as people grasp that and go, hey, like, whatever that means to them is being like uniquely who they are and, listening to what is going on and being able to follow like, hey, when, this is where you were over here and that felt one way, then you started over here and that felt one way and then started to realize, wait, they're kind of the same. And I think we often, I know that I watch a lot of people that will trade one thing for another. And then especially when it comes to addiction, like it's trading like here, well, I'm not drinking. Okay. But just because this other thing is healthy doesn't mean it's good for you. Like, when it gets so thrown in, it's a distraction.
Right. Absolutely. It's definitely a distraction if you like, let it be. And so that's what I always say, like self-awareness is your superpower. So you can actually like call yourself out and be like, okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing this to distract myself? Am I doing this for me or am I doing this for other people? But definitely you can go, I went from Adderall to every diet on the book, swinging that way to figure out like how to maintain this, since I didn't have, obviously I started eating again after I got off that. But it is important to not trade one thing for another and find ways to feel your feelings through what you're going through.
Yeah. Like, so in the last, about 10 years, I've been double certified as a health coach. So like I will hear the voice in my head say, but I've never been a diet person. Like I'm not one that has ever gone, towards a diet. And only because for me, like that, I knew innately that the restrictions that I would put on myself would push me to it even further. So, I would try to maintain like that healthy balance. But then as soon as the scales would get flipped and I go into another direction, it was like that healthy balance was just out the door. And, it's like for me, I love Coca-Cola. I've loved it since I was a kid. And I know that if I'm not drinking it and I go months and months without drinking it, I'm fine. Like I don't crave it, like I don't go after it. But if I have one, now I want to have another one, and then here, and I'm that person. I'm still like a child in that way. It's like I'll have a Coke, I will drink half of it, and it will still be sitting, somewhere in the house, like going, okay. So it's just better to just not have them. Yeah. But that's those scales is just like, figuring out that balance, and I feel like that goes for so many different things. Is figuring out that balance of, hey, we can have the things that are indulgent, and we can also have the things that are good for us, and they can commingle with each other. And so like being able to bring that to the table. And so again, like I said, I think it's really inspiring to see you now and versus a couple years ago, whereas like that energy, that shift is so it's contagious to watch, like, and
Thank you.
And I mean, so with that, like, how is everything going as far as like, business goes, and, what you're putting out in the world? Because like, I see that energy coming off of you. So like, how's that going with connecting and like, bringing that to the table? Like that. So let me say, like that shift in that energy for you by embracing where you are and embracing exactly who you are. How has that changed your business as to where it is?
So it's definitely changed a lot. When I stepped into the coaching industry, I was mostly just focused on confidence. And then I realized like social media was my passion. When I realized that, or when I stepped into like really authentically being me, and I feel like we're always stepping into that, like it's just continuous layers, right? That we're peeling back, but it just allows showing up on social media so much easier and being clear about, what your message is and who you're trying to reach. And so it was around last year that I really stepped into the, like, I want to help women with social media. And what I'm finding is that so many people are afraid of attention, and they're, we don't realize it, but we are afraid of attention. When we are kids, we are taught to sit down and be quiet and don't draw attention to us. And I'm guilty of doing this to my kids too, and trying to be more aware of it. But what I realized is that was holding women back from actually being their authentic selves online. Mm-hmm. Was holding women back from doing this, So my new program is called Attention Whore. And I called it that because I wanted to get people's attention. And, I hear people say that all the time. Well, she's just on social media for attention. Well, yeah, I'm just on social media for attention. Isn't that why we're all here? It's kind of funny when you think about it. But really being able to step into my own and launch something like that was a bit scary, to be honest. I still have those feelings, but I know that if I help one person along the way, then I've done my job. Mm-hmm. And so it's really allowed me to grow my business even more. And then also I've gotten offers working with other coaches. I'm actually a mentor coach inside of the Rich Method NLP certification. So I work alongside Paige Cole in her certification. And I don't think that if I was like truly owning who I was, that I'd be able to do all of these things. Learning to break the rules, and just also learning to feel the fear and do it anyways. Because I talk about that in my program, Attention Whore, is I can't fully say, I'm going to help you stop thinking about what other people are thinking about you. That's not going to happen. We all get to certain places, and we all have those thoughts. But what I can help you do is I can help you work through those feelings so that they don't hold you back from doing the things that you truly want to do.
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking about that, I remembered something is knowing that you have gone through quite a bit as far as people who were negatively following what you're doing. And, and watching something that you have been able to do, and like where it shows is that you have been able to take that and flip that around, and like you've been able to reframe that into something that has helped you. So, can you speak a little bit about like how has that helped you with people who really need to mind their own business, like, and because that the attention whore, like, and where that comes from, like that embodied voice where people are like, well, what if people are watching me like this? Well, they probably are. Like they probably are. And, it's just knowing that those people don't matter. So how have you been able to use that as like fuel for you?
Right. So yes, I have this group of people that follow me, that stalk me and then post nasty memes about me. And this has been going on for about 4 years. And at first it was really difficult, really, really difficult. And at times broke me, I'll be honest. But again, it was kind of the same thing with my Adderall addiction. When I decided to give that up, I said, if I'm going to share this journey, and if I help one person or if I give somebody hope, then that's why I'm here. And so I've openly talked about these people, not because I want to give them attention, but because I know that other people are probably going through this also, and they need to hear this. It has really, really helped me, because there have been so many more people that have reached out to me and said positive things to me, have said, you're inspiring. Like, I cannot believe that these people are doing this. And when you really step back and look at the bigger picture, there's these 2 women over here, and there's these thousands of women over here who are messaging me and telling me these things and telling me how I'm giving them the strength to get out there and do the things that they're going to do. And I kind of look at it like, in a way, like I pray for them. I feel bad for them because they're clearly hurting and are not healing the way that they should be, or not. I don't want to say should. What's the words I'm looking for? I can't imagine living that way, right, and knowing that something is off inside of them, and it's not about me. Right. It's not about me. And so I want other women to feel that too. Like, yeah, when you put your life out on social media, people are going to have something to say. I found that when it's somebody I don't know who it is, it's not as bad as when it's other people. But I've also learned how to work through those feelings and have tools in my tool belt to be like, okay, I need to actually feel mad, or I need to actually feel upset that this is happening to me so that I can work through it. But the thing is like, whatever attention you're getting, what do they say? Like, there's no bad publicity or whatever. It's true. Because every time they post something about me, I get more people who come follow me. Or, I used to have, I'm not real big on YouTube. I used to be back in the day. And I had this one video that was just awful. It was so awful, but it almost has, I think, 500,000 views. But the comment section, is a tough one. But I was making money off that video for like 3 years, every single month. And so I would go on there, and when I was feeling feisty, I would comment, thank you for the support. Thank you for the support, because they were supporting my video. It's getting pushed out to more people. And so you really have to like you said, reframing that and looking at that. It's not about you. It's about whatever they're going through.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so important. Like in life in general, like, it was a lesson that, I'm so grateful that I was able to learn and actually really understand that it is not about you. Like, one of the 4 agreements is to take nothing personally. And it's like, first off, that book changed my life. Hands down, my favorite book. But that agreement in itself, like, I actually got into like an argument with a friend. Let me say a disagreement. I rarely argue with anyone. But we were going back and forth, and it was it was a very interesting conversation, because where my life went after is we were talking about how, like, I don't take anything personal. If somebody does something, it's not about me. It's about where they are in their life. And it's like, yeah, but they did this and I have a right to be upset because they, made me feel like this. Like, yeah, but the thing is, it's still about where they were, and it's still nothing about me. And it was a very extreme example that came up in this conversation. And my friend said, well, if somebody were to like walk in, we were sitting at a bar, if somebody were to walk in here and start shooting, I'm going to be so upset, like it's personal. It's, this. I'm like, yeah, but it's not about you. Like, the thing is like, yeah, you have all rights to be pissed. You do, but it's not about you. It's about where that person was in their life. And so then to, I think it was less than a year later to go through the shooting here, like, and I heard these words back in my head was like, it's not about you. It's about where this person was in their life. Yes, it's a heinous act, and there is no excuse, and there's no way to bring that, any of that back to like make sense of it, because it is a senseless act. But it wasn't about me specifically. Like this, that person, whatever's going on, it's about where they are. So it's like, these lessons in all of our life, like learning that, hey, this wasn't about me, help me like reframe the situation for myself for healing, and being able to use that to go forward so that I can in turn help other people, because that's where, I was already on that journey and in coaching prior to that, but that completely pivoted where I was going. And so it is impactful. Like, it is something that, like, yeah, there's people out there that, to target someone repeatedly it makes no sense, except for the fact that that's where they are. And, I look at it in like those situations very similar to you. It's like, hey, I wish them well. I wish that, one day they're able to see, maybe they see something that like I post and, hey, that triggers something for them, and they're able to go like, hey, like I'm going to, look into this a little bit further for myself, because, I do believe that everything has its purpose in our life. And so, that negative effect, being able to reframe it into that positive helps to keep going for that next place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you talk about that agreement, because I actually have it as an alarm on my phone. It comes up at noon and it says, don't take anything personal. And it's great. I actually just read the book like a couple months ago for the first time. I thought I had read it, but I didn't. And that changed. That is a game changer, like you said. And I can't even imagine going through what you went through. And thankfully, like you said, you'd already been on that journey. So, healing maybe was a little bit easier than it would have been. I'm not sure, but that's huge. And I think you are an inspiration for so many people too, and will help so many people through going through things. And that's why, like, I'm so passionate about women getting out there and sharing their journey and sharing their lives and doing it authentically, not doing it for like, okay, like we were kind of talking before this, just seeing what happens, putting it out there and seeing what happens, because you never know when that one person is going to see what you posted. I remember 6 years ago when I was ready to just give up Adderall. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm going to die. My kids need me. And I was up all night just looking for that person. I was looking for that person, and I maybe wasn't looking in the right spots, but I couldn't find that person. And so right then and there, I said, I will be that person when I'm ready. And I'm sure, you feel the same way.
And and anytime I have found myself slightly doubting the course that I'm on, something will pop up that will remind me that, like, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I've had, the one person that reaches out and it was like, oh my gosh, like I needed to hear that right then. And so you just know that, like, okay, I've got to keep going in what I'm doing, because I feel it, like, and I do feel like our stories are meant to be shared. And that doesn't mean that, however we're utilizing it, to have them to be shared with other people, because we are all in this human experience together, and it is very unique to who we are, but like there's something so much more and so much bigger that I feel that's going on within these unique stories that we have in our lives. And so to be able to connect with other people, whether that's just a friend, whether that's, mentoring something outside of here, like I have been on an Ed Milet kick the last like week, and I love his YouTubes, and like he's a very genuine person, and he talks about his father and going through AA, and him helping all of these other people. Well, he didn't want this spotlight, he didn't want to be out in the open, but the incredible change that happened for his life, then that ripple that goes on to the other people, and then the other people and the other people, and then that's the way it goes. Like that one person, you're shifting, and then they shift because they chose that, hey, something within your story was what they needed to hear, and hear it exactly how you told it. And so therefore, that's something inside of them that shift, and then they were able to push on in a different way than they might have before you ever said it. And so that is where, like what I just shared a few minutes ago, I have not ever shared that live or on video. And part of it's been for fear of like, I don't mean the story in a way that like, hey, I don't condone anything that happened. And with all of the tragedies that have gone on, it has been more fuel for me in other things that, I either am doing or I see coming down the road. But it ultimately all started with me understanding a concept that took me hearing it a specific way. So, if it wasn't for that book, who knows? Who knows how I would have interpreted what happened? Who knows how that would have been? Like, I did go to therapy right after, and within about 6 weeks, the therapist told me that I was at a point of post-traumatic growth. And I was like, what? Like, I've never heard that term before. What is that? And she went on to explain that, like, that post-traumatic growth is you're able to, reframe and shift so much of what happened in a way that I have grown into this other version of myself that I wasn't prior to what happened. And I was just like, oh, like, why don't, like people talk about PTSD, but we don't talk about post-traumatic growth. And I know so many people who you can see, like, and just even with you and your story, like there is definite post-traumatic growth in there, but we don't hear that. And it's like, knowing that, yes, these things are possibilities. And so like, I'm such a dealer of dreams for myself and like others, that it's like, yeah, we have this side over here, but we also have this side over here. Then we have that gray area in the middle. Like what you were saying earlier is like, that gray area gets to consist of however we want it to shape that next place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never heard that term either until you just shared it with me. So that's really cool. And we should be talking about that more because again, that's going to give more people hope. We always talk, about the bad things, which we should, and we should want people to get help. But I think it's also important for people to see that people can change. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't believe that for a really long time until I changed myself. And then I was like, oh, okay, people can change. They just have to have the self-awareness to want to do it. And we are so powerful human beings that we can do that. And we're very influential no matter what we do, And so I think that, yeah, sharing that is super powerful. And I definitely think it needs to be talked about more.
Yeah. I mean, we are capable of change. And most of us have heard the phrase growing up of like how, people don't change. Mm-hmm. I was like, that never sat well with me. And then like I had one particular friend who was very adamant that, people don't change, like they're going to stay the same. And I'm like, yeah, see, I don't believe that to be the case, but I do believe that it is a choice. Doesn't mean the choice is going to be easy. Doesn't mean that new path is going to be something that like, hey, now I'm there. Because there's growth that's got to happen within that path to have that stick, because we have been one way for so long. And so, our default is to return us back to how we were, because that is the program that we are running. Just like a computer. The computer's not going to run on a new program until it gets upgraded. And so that upgrade's got to stick. And so you got to complete the upgrade. Like if we stopped our phone when it's upgrading, is it going to work right? No, because we didn't complete the upgrade. So our lives are no different than upgrading our phone. It's making that choice to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and change. And this, I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I'm going to stick with it. And I do believe that all people are capable of that. Do I think that, I'm not naive to say that, I think most people won't.
Yeah.
Because of that default. And you're going to go back to that original programming unless that desire is there to stick, to go on to that next level. So, that actually brings up for me that watching you go through the sober curious and then being where you are now, like I've loved watching that journey too, because, where you first started was like, hey, like, I'm going to do this, like, it's your like 365 days. And then to see that you're still there it's been really cool to see, like, if you mind sharing that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's really important to note like the journey in between, like you were talking about. A lot of times we'll just see this, okay, I was here and then I was here. And I've had journeys where I've done that and I've kept it to myself until I was ready to share. But I also think it's really, really important to share the middle parts of things, because like you said, the majority of people aren't willing to do those things because they don't, it's not normalized. That uncomfortable middle part is not normalized. So back in 2020, I decided that I wanted to go 365 days without alcohol. I wouldn't consider myself an alcoholic, but alcohol was a big part of my life. I will say that. And it has been for a really long time. But it just kept coming up, like, what would a whole year without alcohol be like, And to be honest, I couldn't really remember the last time that happened, other than when I was pregnant, and that wasn't even a whole year, So I said, let's do this. Let's do 365 days. And I did. And I actually shared almost every single day. Well, I shared, I think, up to like 200 days on TikTok. I would just do a video saying, this is day this is what I think. And it was a roller coaster ride. It was uncomfortable. It was exciting. It was new. It was like experiencing everything for the first time, and really forcing myself to sit in those emotions. Like I've said a lot. And then I got to 400 days and I decided that I wanted to have a drink. And so I did, and I didn't like it at all. But I wasn't going at a place of I'm going to be sober forever. But I did a lot of learning and a lot of growth in that time. And so I would say 99% of the time I don't drink. If I want to have one, I can. But other than that, it has allowed me to grow so much and feel so much better that I kind of like the desire has kind of gone away, if you will.
Yeah. Like, and that's where, like, watching you stick to that, like, you doing the journaling, like, I love that you pick these things, and it's like, no, like it shows a lot, that commitment. And even that saying, like, and I loved, and that's what I picked up too, was like, you're like, hey, I'm doing this for right now. I'm not saying that I'm going to do this forever, but for right now, that this is what I'm doing. And I'll continue for whenever I want. Like, and that goes back to the whole beginning about being able to be you in however, whatever form that is, what actually feels good to where you are. And I love that. I love that.
Thank you so much.
So, we spoke about attention whore. Is there anything else that you have going on? Like, I know that you have some, like, you have your one-on-ones and stuff too. What other things do you do? Or whatever things you do.
I have attention whore, and then I have my signature program, which is called Content Queen. And that actually gives you access to everything. So it's really about stepping into your confidence and up-leveling your social media game so that it's just like a part of your life. It doesn't like, I feel like we overthink social media so much, and it's just like, let's go out there and have fun. And so I really teach you how to cultivate creativity. There's a lot of just like, everyone always asks me, how do you pump out so much content? And I'm like, I just do. And so I reverse engineered that and figured out like, okay, this is actually what I do to pump out that much content. And so that's what I teach women inside of there. Like I said, I'm also a Rich Method certificate coach, soon to be a trainer of NLP. And so I do have, I do bring people into that certification too. So if anybody is looking to get started on their coaching journey, that's another option, but that's what I do right now.
And how can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's the Ashley Beeman, or TikTok is Ashley Beeman, and Facebook is Ashley Beeman. But I'm really more on Facebook and TikTok, or Instagram and TikTok right now.
I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I'm at. Like, kind of like whatever feels good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like the energy will like, it sways and it flows in different areas. And so like, that's one thing that I teach my students is I'm like, or my clients, just be everywhere, repurpose it everywhere, because sometimes you're going to find like Instagram is blowing up, or sometimes it's TikTok, or sometimes it's Facebook. And when that happens, put the energy there and don't worry, like it's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, TikTok was really like consistent for me for a while until like, it just wasn't anymore. Cause it didn't feel the same. And so, I felt like, here I kind of stepped away from like one account that's like at a, had been, quite a bit over 100,000. Now it's like dropped down and it's like 98,000. And then, my regular personal one, which was like at 22, then that one's dropped down. And then I decided at one point, like, okay, here, I'm going to start a whole new one. And then I was like, and then like kind of went back to Facebook, and then just like that teeter-tottering back and forth. But I think, for me, it's definitely that following what feels good and wherever that leads, and, also knowing when I'm just procrastinating.
I love it.
So final thing I want to ask, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask so far, is what would you tell 18-year-old you?
I would tell 18-year-old me to not go to college, because that's not your thing. I also would tell her just like be in the moment and be present and enjoy the journey. It took me a really long time to get to a place where I wasn't always future tripping and trying to get to the next thing. Let's get married, let's have kids, let's do this, let's get the house, let's go. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm here, but I'm still chasing the next thing. And so I would definitely tell her to just slow down, enjoy your time, and everything works out exactly as it should, exactly when it should.
That fits the mold of so many things that have been going on in my week. And like I was talking about, like the 6-month challenge, one of those like 4 kind of pillars that am evaluating and going through is, being, mindful and being present, and, that being present in our lives is so important, because this is where we are right now. Like, on that emotional side, I was listening to something, and, I'm super sensitive, like in a good way, I think, like, but I was listening to something, totally started tearing up, because we don't ever know when our last moment is. And so if we are able to treat things more like our last moments, like our last, time with, whoever we're with, this question just has really stuck with me all week, is how would that change that experience? You're probably going to be present, like if you know that you're walking into some place and that's the last time you get to experience that place, how would that change that? Like, that to me is like such a like profound question, because it can change absolutely everything in life by just answering that question every time. Like, hey, what if this was my last cheeseburger? like what if this was my last, like, how would I spend these times? Like, that's a silly example, but it's still that, like, would I enjoy it? Am I going to actually taste it? Am I going to actually take the moment to feel what it feels like to have this, instead of we, you know, especially with food, we so often like eat the food without actually enjoying it because we're just doing it and then going on to that next moment. And so I think that if we're able to enjoy it, and something going back as like silly as an example as the food, that ripple in itself is going to cause us to make better choices because we're going to enjoy what it's like in that moment. And we're not just doing something just to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that is definitely such a great thing to tell ourselves then, now, future.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that, like, I am so grateful that you were on here. I love spending this time with you and getting to chat with you. Like, I definitely would love to do it more because, like, you've got such a great energy. Like, I think that every person that's been on the show, like, has like such an incredible energy. And I think that, you know, that side that like we connect to people. I mean, we connect to people who we connect to. Like, that energy connects. Like, that's how energy works. Like, when we pull that in. So like the other day, like we were talking beforehand, you know, the person who no showed on me, there's a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited to watch you continue to grow. I'm excited to see how the next 6 months for you goes. And yeah, like, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. Any